Hi folks, thanks for watching my monologue. As you may have heard, there's been a recent run on guns and ammunition. I just wanted to let you know that Guns Etc. is in a 10,200 square foot building which holds a lot of guns. So Guns Etc. is open and has a lot of product. Or you can go to gunsetc.com, that's gunsetc.com. And if you like my monologue, please subscribe to our channel using 960 The Patriot. Welcome back. Happy May 18th, 2020. Well, this is a rather precious headline for a major story in the New Yorker magazine this week. Quote, what Donald Trump shares with Joseph McCarthy, close quote. Gets pretty quickly in the piece to going back to the old Richard Hofstadter thesis about Goldwater in 1964, that there was a paranoid style in American politics. You've heard me a lot on this. Turned out just to be total crud. Hofstadter should have focused on the left, being paranoid, not the right. Think for a moment about the service the whole thesis was trying to promote back then, the beneficence of Lyndon Johnson's candidacy. Fine, it happened, and the data is in. Now, quick question. How many people do you know say, well, maybe in 1964 I should have just voted for the honest guy, meaning Goldwater? What were the liberals worried about then? An escalation of the Vietnam War, surely. Well, that happened. And as for the rest of us, do you think expanded welfare programs and exploding the out-of-wedlock birth rate and cycles of poverty generationally, especially in our minority communities, is not a problem we are still dealing with? Except it's worse, right? Burning cities, burning countries, that's what we got with Johnson. Everything they warned us about with Goldwater, but everything we actually got with Johnson, with a very good dose of thinking through our look-back test that Goldwater would not have gotten us the Vietnam miasma, and certainly not the social welfare wars, which are lost wars. Indeed, in a weird way, you see liberals today lamenting there aren't more Republicans like Goldwater is also precious. They've rewritten him in their own message, but hopefully you take the point. The left and the academic elite got the 1964 election wrong and are still yet marshaling the idea that it is the right that is angry and bitter, and not the left. Here is, after all, what David Remnick writes in the New Yorker. Quote, Hofstadter, who died in 1970, saw the country as an arena of uncommonly angry minds. And it's hard to read him and not think of Trump's dark descants on the deep state, the end of the people, and now Obamagate. Uncommonly angry? Us? Are you kidding? Have you heard from AOC or Bernie Sanders or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib? You heard from or seen a leftist on TV? How about the progressivist who was on the Al Sharpton show, another very non-angry man, of course, on NBC across from Hugh Hewitt this weekend? She said when you hear talk of Obamagate, you have to hear that that's really anti-black sentiment and the notion that conservatives still can't get over the fact that this country had a black president. Not only is that uncommonly angry, it's unhinged. We're the ones who keep saying skin color makes no difference and black person can and should be able to do anything he or she wants in America. It's the left that keeps telling us that's not the case. They're the ones who are still angry about Clarence Thomas. They're the ones that don't think blacks can or should be Republicans. They are the angry and bitter ones, not us. But of course they just turn it around and shift it as if we are. Compare a Sanders rally to a Trump rally. You tell me what effuses bitter and angry, and what effuses love and patriotism. As for comparing McCarthy to Trump, nice try on that, too. First, it's important to remember, McCarthy may have been a terrible person and terrible messenger, an alcoholic, you name it. But on the merits, he was right. There was a communist infiltration in America and in our government. We know this from the released Venona papers. We know this from a lot of Soviet archives that have been opened up. Second, it's kind of a funny sentence, Remnick writes, that, quote, Trump is running as an impeached president, close quote. Because McCarthy was censured by his Senate colleagues, I guess is the relevance, but who the heck thinks of Trump as impeached anymore? I know Nancy Pelosi said he'll be impeached forever, but does that bell ring anywhere? Does anyone really think it was a credible or relevant impeachment? They tried to make Trump Hitler. They've tried to make him Mussolini. They've tried to make him a fascist. They've tried, and now they're trying to make him Joe McCarthy. At least we're finally seeing him being compared to an American, I guess, but notice the trick. They do so by totally misunderstanding their own movement, which is far more McCarthyite than Trump or our movement. They're the ones who censor. They're the ones who deplatform. They're the ones who allege guilt by association. They're the ones that believe in voiding any notion of due process. They're the ones who have weaponized the IRS and FBI against domestic political opponents. They're the ones that try to bring up a person's past to smear that person in the current moment. They're the ones that race bait and religion bait. They're the ones that question loyalty to this country and allege dual or false loyalties. Now, if I may, let me read you some of Victor Davis Hanson's latest. Quote, compare the current progressive view about civil liberties against the old liberal positions of the past. Surveillance and spying on U.S. citizens? Remember liberal Senator Frank Church of Idaho and his 1975 post-Watergate Select Senate Investigation Committee? It found the CIA, FBI, and NSA improperly over 3 decades had tapped into the phones of Americans, opened their mail, and worked with telecommunications companies to monitor the data of supposedly suspect politicians, actors, celebrities, and political activists. Collusion with the communists and the Russians was often the pretense to surveil American citizens. Consider Church either a bastion of civil liberties protection or a dangerous firebrand who weakened the CIA and FBI, but the point is that the left's position had once mostly been that the government's unelected deep state intelligence officers simply had too much power to trust. Indeed, the ACLU was outraged at what the committee revealed. Church was deified as a liberal hero uncovering government abuse, but the worst thing a government could do, liberals reminded us, was to spy on its own citizens. Then we were also warned that the scandal was the result of the government for over 30 years targeting mostly liberals on grounds of trumped-up suspicions that they were sympathetic to communism in general and the Soviet Union in particular. Yet in addition, the left argued that the state had no business spying on any American at all, unless it had certified warrant and ample criminal causes, or we found ourselves in a war with enemies at home among us. And now? Russia is no longer a global communist superpower rival, yet the Obama administration's CIA, NSA, and FBI were every bit as obsessed with Vladimir Putin as had the old right worried about Leonid Brezhnev, as if a contemporary kleptocratic thug lording over a failed and shrinking state posed the same existential dangers as a communist dictator reigning over a huge post-war empire dedicated to destroying the free world. Actually, at the behest of then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the U.S. earlier had reached out to Putin in a naive, flawed reset appeasement that failed. So the Obama administration's about-face obsession with Putin the monster always was largely a convenient gambit of wanting to destroy the Trump campaign, transition, and presidency. Barack Obama's 21st century intelligence hierarchs and their minions systematically outdid Richard Nixon's plumbers, spooks, and spies. Obama appointees and loyalists surveilled American citizens, doctored or destroyed evidence, and monitored their communications. They deceived FISA courts to justify such illegal surveillance, set perjury ambushes to snare perceived political opponents, and used informants to spy on political enemies. They leaked classified information to damage opponents, paid foreign nationals during a political campaign to gather dirt on a presidential candidate of the opposing party, and repeatedly either flat out lied under oath to Congress or on hundreds of occasions claimed they could not remember when asked factual and specific questions. It's worth reading his whole piece over at American Greatness, but the point is this. Every time a leftist today compares us to, take your pick, fascists, Hitler, Nixon, or McCarthy, please, I beg of you, do your homework and understand 2 things. A, the shoe is on the other foot. It is they, not us, emulating all those retrograde practices and personae. And B, note what kind of politics it is they are waging. It's a politics of and by smear and defamation. And there's nothing, in the end, nothing more McCarthyite than that. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.